Welcome to Real Estate War Stories. I'm Matt. This is Kyle. This is brought to you by PlutusLeads.com. Plutus Leads connects investors with agents. If you are an investor, head to PlutusLeads.com, sign up in the top right corner. If you're an agent, head to PlutusLeads.com, sign up on the main page. Investors, once you sign up, we'll show you how it works. You upload leads, they get blasted out. Agents, there's no cost for you to sign up. There's no monthly fees or contracts. Sign up and you'll get leads straight to your inbox. What you get initially is basic information, including notes from our conversations with the sellers. If you like what you see, click to purchase. It's that simple. PlutusLeads.com.
So from a perspective of creating the podcast, we wanted to share our stories. We wanted listeners to be able to interact with us and share their stories. Basically, have a healthy outlet for everybody to, listen to some crazy stories, to share crazy stories, hopefully a little bit of learning lessons in there, things like that. Does that sound pretty accurate?
I mean, pretty much. We talked about it, and the whole idea came from all the times that we've spent bullshitting, and anytime we go get coffee or a drink or lunch with another investor or agent, inevitably we end up swapping crazy stories. So we know that everyone that works in this industry has them. And this is just a place where we can all come together, tell our crazy shit, and come listen to it and maybe learn something along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually talked to friends in the past where I'm always like, I wish I had those Ray-Ban glasses that record everything.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
And then I'm like, it doesn't make sense to do that because all of the crazy stuff has already happened.
Yeah.
But then there's just always a new wave of crazy things that really take place.
Those glasses came to my mind. It was I went to look at a house, and I had told him on the front end that, I probably wasn't going to buy it. And so I went to look at it. It was one that I was looking at for me and you to do. And it was a piece of shit. And the neighbor had offered him $90,000 for it because he wanted to envelop that land with his land. And so we walked through it. It's garbage. And I'm trying to not make an offer. So I was talking to him. I'm like, guys, just sell it to him. And they kept pressuring me. And I eventually said, all right, look, the most I can give you is $30,000. He flipped out. And then the reason I wanted those glasses is it was his house. And he got in his truck first and peeled out slinging gravel while flipping me off, driving away. It just left me standing there. In that moment, God, I wish I had a cameraman.
Classy.
Yeah.
So from a perspective of probably, we've already talked about this before we went live, both of us have pretty crazy stories. I would think the craziest one is the flip that we did together. I don't want to give too many details because I want to set a good foundation and have a good, story for everybody. You were much more involved in the negotiations and everything like that.
You talking about the football house?
Yeah, the football house.
Yeah, the football house.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's, just from a simplistic perspective, I mean, how did we acquire that lead?
All right. So we're real estate investors. We market for off-market properties, and then they reach out if they want to sell. So I think that one came in from a pay-per-click campaign.
Sure. So they expressed interest that they wanted to sell.
Yeah. She went online, Googled, I want to sell my house, and then had the luxury of getting my phone number.
Yeah, I think that's important that she contacted us and she wanted to sell. It wasn't that we went door knock and said, hey, we'll give you so much money.
Yeah. I've always preferred that. It costs more, but it makes a heck of a lot more sense because they're better leads and you don't run the risk of getting shot as much.
Absolutely. Pun intended.
Shit. Yeah. So she reached out and she was a sweet old lady and I loved her. I have a special place for grandmas and she was just a sweet old grandma. But she had lived in that house for 50 years and her husband had passed and she was getting older and she wanted to move to an old folks community.
Okay.
Big house, a lot of potential, really desirable area. So I went and looked at it and it was, looked like she had lived there for 50 years. It wasn't bad. It was just old. So go around the outside and do all of that. And that's all fine. And then go inside and start walking through it. And it was a smoker house. It wasn't that bad downstairs, but it was a little bit of nicotine on the ceilings. And
so was she a smoker?
She was an ex-smoker. So in years prior, she had been a smoker, but she hadn't smoked for years. But you could tell that she and her husband used to sit there and watch Wheel of Fortune and chain smoke. So we got that. And then she told me she didn't say anything about it until this point. We had talked for a long time. And then I was like, all right, well, let me go and look upstairs. She pulled me aside and was like, well, my son lives up there with his girlfriend and her daughter. So we gotta be careful. And I was like, all right, that's fine. So as we started to go upstairs, I start seeing holes in the walls.
Mm-hmm.
And we get up and I go through the master bedroom, which no one had lived in since her husband died. Like it had just sat there. So we do all that. And then she's like, well, let me go over here and just make sure they're decent. And she just opens a bedroom door and there's like, I don't know, like, thank God I didn't see it. But the daughter was in there getting dressed. So she's just screaming, I'm naked. And the woman closes the door back. And then the girlfriend comes out and she's screaming. I wasn't allowed to go in the son's room because he was in there and he was crotchety. So we go through all of that. We talk about it. We come to an agreement, and I leave her with a written offer. She wants her daughter to look it over.
So at this point, you've only met the homeowner, the elderly woman,
The girlfriend
daughter,
and the girlfriend's daughter.
and the girlfriend's daughter.
Yeah, she was like a teenager.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the girlfriend. So you've met the three ladies pretty much.
Yep. And I've been everywhere in the house other than the son's bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he was in there that day, you think?
Oh, he was always in there.
Okay.
He never left that room.
Okay. So you left the written offer.
Yep.
With her. Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead.
And then it's also worth noting that as you went up the stairs, the ceilings got progressively more yellow from nicotine.
Okay.
So I leave her with a written offer. Next day, get a call from a random phone number, and it's the daughter. And, she seems normal. She seems nice. She's like, meet me over there. So I go back over there and meet with her and the mom, and we sit and talk. And, she was being a good daughter. She was making sure that her mom wasn't getting scammed, asking me lots of the normal questions, are you real? How does this work? All that stuff. So we go through everything that is in the purchase and sales agreement. And then she pulls me aside and was like, I need to talk to you about my brother. And I was like, okay, what's up? And she lets me know the entire reason that they're in this situation is A, this is too much house for her mom, true. But B, her brother is taking advantage of the mom and the mom needs to get away from the son. So the mom was moving to an elderly only community specifically so that the son couldn't move with her. It's at this point that I find out that the son is like early 50s. And he moved back in, I don't know, 20 years ago and just kind of stayed in that room ever since.
Yeah. And I want to say like a little bit of a side note. Up until, because obviously this happened, let's say 10 months ago or something.
Yeah.
Up until probably yesterday, I had no idea that he was in his 50s.
Yeah.
I always pictured him around our age, probably mid to late like 30s. Yeah. That's what I thought. I didn't think this was a man.
No, this is a grown ass man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a grown ass man.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a really weird one. Like I've been in thousands of houses at this point and like been in all kinds of situations and dealt with all kinds of people, but it was uncomfortable. So I talked to the daughter, which that's his sister. And she's explaining to me, more of the details, and I'm trying to not cross that line from a professional relationship to a personal relationship, and like trying to keep it to where I'm buying your house. So she paints that picture, lets me know that all of his issues and, drugs, drinking, all of that, but leaves a lot out. So we talk more, and I'm like, okay, as long as he's out of here by the time we close, I'm good. Like, everything is fixable, but I do need to go in that room prior to closing because I need to know what it needs. So we get it signed progressively as we got closer to closing. The conversations got more strained and more stressed out and more worried about the son and what he's going to do. And, again, riding that line between personal and professional, just kind of telling her to do what she thinks is best. And because she, at first, because he didn't think it was real. So he started realizing that this was really happening when she made him leave the bedroom so that I could go in it.
Yeah.
He never left that room.
Yeah.
So when he had to leave
did 3 people live in that room?
No, so the mom slept downstairs on the couch. Upstairs, the teenage daughter had a bedroom. And then right next to it was the son and his girlfriend.
Okay. Gotcha.
And then there was a spare room too.
Mhm.
So yeah, he wasn't a dick. Like I'll give him that. Like when she made him come out of that bedroom, he was very aggressive behind closed doors. Like a lot of screaming, a lot of y'all need to keep it down. I'm trying to sleep that. But when he had to come out and actually see me, he was really nice.
Nice
Like,
enough guy.
yeah, he was just like, hey man, yeah, sorry, it's messy in there. And I was like, man, I just literally need to glance in like 5 seconds. It's a bedroom. So do that. And yeah, it was a bedroom. Like there were holes punched in the wall. That ceiling was the most nicotine stained ceiling I've ever seen in my life. And we'll get more into that later. But um, yeah, so we do that. Once I made him come out of the room, though, he started realizing that this was actually going to happen. So he started playing the pity card of, if you do this, I'm going to end up homeless. I'm going to end up under a bridge if you do this. Don't do this to me. I have no idea how those conversations went. I just got bits and pieces from the mom and from her daughter, which was his sister. Um, so he tried the pity card. When the pity card didn't work, he got more aggressive. So then I went over there another day. He had punched more holes in more doors because it was just hollow core doors from the 70s.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you breathe on them hard enough and they'll break. So he had done that. So we had to have a come to Jesus about that. And I let her know, like, we were already paying more than we should have for that house. And we can't keep having him break stuff. At that point, I got concerned for her safety and well being. So I called her daughter and I said, hey, I'm going to fully cross the line and we're going to have a personal conversation because I'm worried about your mom. Do you think that there is the possibility that he could hurt her? Like, sure. From what he's doing, I'm uncomfortable, but that's your brother. That's your mom. You would know better than me. You know, if you tell me that that's not going to happen, I'll sleep better at night. But she was like, no, he would never do that. Like he'll punch walls, he'll punch doors. He would never hurt mama. And then radio silence for a minute. Then the mom calls me one day and she is just sobbing. And I couldn't even understand her. So I said, you know, I don't know. I'll come over and we'll talk about it. So I drove over there and sat on the couch with her. And she told me that her son said, if you do this, I'm going to kill myself. So in selling this house, you were saying you're okay with me killing myself. And that's the first time I've had that conversation with the seller. That was a weird one. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know what to say. I ended up just asking her how she felt, if she was okay. What are you thinking? And, you know, she was getting old. She was probably in her late 70s, early 80s, I would guess.
For some reason, it sticks out that she was 82 to me.
Yeah.
That's just like, for some reason.
She was, she was getting up there.
So approximately how many days was this prior to closing?
A week.
So this is roughly where I have a little bit more like intimate knowledge with what was going on, because you kind of told me that, you know, based on our phone calls, probably leading up to getting to the finish line of the closing, you obviously called me and told me that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, would it be fair to jump into like kind of the day before closing at this point?
I mean, that's where we are.
Okay, perfect.
So yeah, like I was like, so in the conversation with her, when she told me that he said that, I told her to do what she thinks is best. I said, you need to do what you think is right for you, and whatever that is, I support it. Let me know what you want to do. And then she decided to sell the house to us. So we didn't find out that any of this happened until after closing.
Yeah. That's kind of where I want to jump in, because this is where I remember, because you called me day before closing,
mm-hmm.
and I think it was the title company that ended up.
It was the title company.
Company told us, or told you, I'm sorry, hey, we're going to have to delay closing because there was a death in the family.
And that's all we knew.
And me and you talked, and I was like, I'm getting cold chills.
Yeah.
Me and you talked, and I was like, there's no way. Like, this was an aunt in a different
something.
different state. This is a brother somewhere that's elderly. Somebody died in their sleep peacefully and they have a funeral.
Well, because that was the other thing about it is like, in that moment, I wholeheartedly agreed with you that this was something completely detached because I had such solid communication with the mom and the daughter. They called me constantly.
Yeah.
We communicated more than I do with most sellers between contract and close. So in that moment, I was like, there is no way he did it. They would have told me.
Absolutely.
So that's what we knew prior to closing. I'd forgotten that. And then we close on it. Now it's been a minute and more things have happened. But if memory serves, yeah, no, it was the daughter. The daughter was the one that told us, and it was after closing. So title said someone died.
That's right.
Title just left it vague and said there was a death in the family. We need to push. Then the daughter told me, I can't remember if it was, I think it was right after closing.
For some reason, I think it was at the closing table.
Okay.
And the other thing is,
yes, it was. Yep.
It was at the closing table and both of them were pretty non-emotional. I do remember that. And I remember the mother had an Easter egg size knot on her head.
Yeah, because she had fallen. Yes.
Fallen.
Yep. Because that was the daughter told me that. Okay. So yeah, because you went to closing. I didn't go to closing.
Oh, okay.
I didn't go to closing.
That makes more sense then.
Yeah.
That's when I found out. I may have told you. So you might not have seen the goose egg on her head.
Well, I did because we gave them post occupancy.
That's right.
Because of all the stuff that had transpired and the fact that it was a whole thing with her buying her new home and like they needed it and it's fine. So we gave them post occupancy for like a week or two. So after closing, I went over there because the daughter had called me and said, hey, we're wrapping it up. We're down to like the last few boxes. And just so you know, my brother did pass away. And I said, I'm so sorry. Like, do you guys need anything? And she was like, no, he did what he did.
Yeah. So let's pause there real quick. Because I do want to hear more intimate knowledge about that you're aware of now.
I'm telling it in order of when it happened.
Okay.
I'm telling you the story as it unfolded because it did. The knowledge part came in a weird order. So like this is as we experienced it.
Okay. So post occupancy.
I go over there. The mom is on the couch, elderly woman, distraught. Like she is in a puddle on the couch. She is weeping uncontrollably. It hurt my heart because she was a wonderful person. The daughter, she is no emotion. I think there was a lot of hate in her heart, if I were guessing about what had happened. So I still didn't have the details at this point. They never told me. I never heard from the mother or the daughter exactly what he did. Yeah. Only that he did it. So we get through that. I offer my condolences. I let her know that house aside, if you need me, I'm here. Once you move, if you need anything from me, call me. She was just moving 20 minutes away. She really was wonderful. And I hate that she had to deal with that. So they get out and we move in. So we go in there and it's like, base level, cosmetics, flip, start cleaning out, ripping up carpets, prepping all the paint with a horrible guy helping me paint it. And one day I'm in there alone working on it. And then somebody just walks in through the garage and it's the neighbor. And I've never met this woman. The neighbor was chatty and the neighbor told me the entire story with all the details and said that the night before closing, her son had come downstairs with a football helmet and a gun and gone into the garage, put the football helmet on and shot himself in the head. And then the weirdest part of that moment is the sweet country southern.
Real quick, because this is important.
Okay.
Do we think that he walked by the mother?
I have wondered that question because he did have options. So there's two paths to the garage. Well, three. He could have gone downstairs out the front door and into the garage. He could have gone around the stairs right past the mother through the kitchen into the garage, or he could have gone through the dining room.
So he may have walked around and avoid her. He may have walked right by her and said, "Hey, mom."
Yeah. Because
Okay.
again, I wonder, and this is all speculation, I don't believe, because they were very secretive. They didn't tell us any of this stuff prior to closing, I think because they were afraid we wouldn't buy the house.
Yeah.
So I wondered if that knot on her head was from her trying to stop him. Like if he did walk by with.
And she fell.
Yeah, like because she was an old woman. So if he walked by with a helmet in one hand and a freaking 9mm in the other, and she was trying to like get the gun from him or something and fallen and busted her head that way, I don't know.
That is a very real possibility.
Yeah, because like when they said she fell, I'm like, I mean, y'all haven't been fully honest. So I wonder if they just lied about that and she had like tried to wrestle the gun from him.
She happened to fall the day before and have a Matt, she and you can agree with me. I mean, this when I say like an egg size,
it was a goose egg. Like it was
the lady needed to be like pretty much at the hospital. Yeah.
She was absolutely concussed.
And that happened to fall on the same day.
Yes.
That her son killed himself. Sounds a little unlikely.
No clue.
Yeah.
It's all speculation, but I've always wondered about that too, because I would love to know how that shook out. Anyway,
he walked by. He potentially didn't walk by, but he's got a gun in one hand. He's got a football helmet in another.
The neighbor tells me that he took those things, went into the garage at that house, and the sweet Southern, wasn't he so thoughtful and sweet tone of he put the helmet on so that he didn't make a mess. That was how she said it. Like, it's like we're at a church luncheon. Isn't he just the sweetest thing? He didn't want to make a mess in that garage, so he put that helmet on to keep all the blood and brains from splattering everywhere so that the cleanup would be easier. He was just thoughtful.
He's thoughtful.
Thoughtful. That was, yeah. And we never knew. And that garage had stains all over the floor. And so then I started going out. I'm like, is that oil or is that blood?
Ooh, right?
Yeah.
That's uncomfortable.
A little bit.
Yeah. No, totally understandable. The other thing is so why the football helmet?
I just told you, to keep the blood and the brains in.
Why does he have a football
helmet?
Why does he have a 50-something-year-old man?
In the I don't want to talk shit about dead people, but in the process of cleaning that house out and getting everything cleared so that we could go in and start tearing out and demo, they're like, they left basically, they didn't leave like anything of value, but they left everything of his. So he had all of his trophies from playing football in like the late 80s, early 90s. I think it was the late 80s. He had VHS tapes of football games he played in high school from that era. He was very proud of his accomplishments in high school football.
So you know what we call that, right? It's a peaked in high school.
Yes.
It's a man that peaked in high school.
Yeah, and he just held on to all of it.
Yep.
And then the neighbor kept coming and she was a talker. So she told me that the son had gotten a good job and done all these things and started like, financed a $100,000 truck, financed a $30,000 motorcycle, lost his job, repo man came and took everything that he had. And at that point, he just stayed in that room. He came out to use the bathroom. He left the house to get cigarettes and drugs. Other than that, he just stayed there. So we've done a lot of smokehouses, right? We've done a lot of nasty, nasty houses. This was the only one that I've ever seen it like this. So, in your ceiling mount light fixtures, you've got the actual fixture, and then you've got the electrical box that is behind the sheetrock. All of your wiring's in there. That's where the connection's made. His room had a ceiling fan, so mounted into the ceiling. Everything is covered in nicotine. That ceiling took like multiple coats of Kills to get it white enough to paint. But when I pulled that light fixture down and went to disconnect the wires inside that electrical box that was not accessible in any capacity, it was locked in. I mean, you could scrape the nicotine out of that electrical box. Like all of the wiring was covered in it. When you went to unscrew the wing nuts, like they were like tarry and sticky. It was gross. It was really, really gross. The room was rough.
So just from a perspective of like, wrapping it up, I think we kind of have definitely the gist of what happened and what a horrible thing that took place. And, from my perspective, I remember being like, holy cow, like this is a rough thing for even even myself to deal with. It's like, because obviously we're not responsible for that, but like
we're involved.
We were involved, and like that was a push that, somebody ended up taking their life that had been on the earth, for 50 something years.
Yep, entirely because of us. But again, it wasn't because of us. It would have been any investor.
Any investor, yeah.
It could have been any investor that bought that house, and this would have happened. But
and in a weird way, I think mom, kind of did deserve some peace at the end of her life, and hopefully, she did get that. I mean, in a weird kind of way.
But the neighborhood she moved to is really nice. Like and again, I did check up on her a few months after and just asked her how she was settling in. And it was a mixed bag. She was still mourning.
Yeah.
But she did say that she loved the neighborhood that she lived in, and she had made a lot of new friends, and she was really happy. But that's something that is not quick or easy to get through.
Absolutely. So I want to go ahead and just kind of wrap things up.
No, hold on, because you can't wrap this up. So the painter guy that
there's still more.
So before we wrap it up, a couple of things that happened while we were working on that house. So I had a few guys that helped me, and I was in that house throughout the duration of it. But everyone had a couple of weird things, and I don't know, but maybe you're just looking for it because somebody just killed themselves in it. But the painter that was helping me, I got there early, he got there late, I left early, he stayed late. And he was scared shitless because he said he was walking upstairs like later at night, going upstairs to do something, paint something, whatever. And he said when he was walking up those stairs, all of a sudden doors started slamming upstairs. And so he left and just left, because when I got there, I was like, why are the lights on? He was like, I got out. So that I was upstairs working, and then downstairs the kitchen sink just turned on. Like it was, one of those where like you lift it to turn the water on.
Yeah.
I'm upstairs, and then I
think you called me.
I did call you because that house scared the shit out of me.
You said, "Are you here messing with me?"
Yes. Like I came downstairs and that sink was just on. I did not turn that sink on. I was in that house alone and the sink just turned on. I took a video of like the lights in the dining room going crazy. Like wasn't on a dimmer. It was just on off, but those lights were just flickering and being nuts.
Very sporadically too.
Yes.
No consistency.
And then there was a toilet upstairs flushed while I was downstairs with the painter. Like you could hear like that upstairs
change. I thought that was really weird.
That was, but that one, it was weird, but that's easy to just like play a joke.
Sure.
Like anybody could have left that, but it was weird that I went upstairs and in the bathroom, there were 2 dimes. Like there's like, a little 1-inch countertop between the lip of the sink and the outside edge of the counter. And there were 2 dimes, one face up and one face down, just sitting there. Anybody could have put them there, but that's weird.
It's a weird thing to put somewhere.
That's weird. Like, why would you do that outside of just screwing with me? Because we all knew like, hey, this house is weird. And like when I was downstairs with them and the toilet flushed upstairs because we just heard water running down like the drain line under the house. And we both looked at each other and then went upstairs and the toilet just flushed. There was no one else in the house because primarily it was always just me and one other dude in that house. Sometimes it was me and 2 other guys. But yeah. Now a nice family lives in it. We made a nice house for them. They have a big, beautiful yard, and I'm curious, but I'm not making that call to see if they have had any weird experiences.
No.
But yeah, that's the end of that story. That's where that story ends.
I think that's a really good story. It's a really good, start of kind of what we want to do. I think me and you both have, hundreds of stories combined over, a decade of kind of doing this. If we could get other people that have stories that we could share, or if people want to come on and tell their stories, that would be good. If they're not comfortable with that and it's stories that we could just read out, that would be good. I know that both of us kind of made some posts on Reddit, Facebook, stuff like that. And I think we're going to be sharing some of those stories moving forward. And then both of us will kind of have some conversations about maybe what we would have done, just the shock factor of the stories, things like that. And that's kind of the purpose of this podcast.
And it doesn't have to be dead bodies and spooky stories. Like it can also just be insane deal structuring. Like, Because that's the other thing is I know one of the first crazy deal structure stories that we have that we're going to tell. It can just be one that was just absolutely freaking crazy to put together, but you pulled it off and got it closed. That's the thing. It doesn't have to just be gross.
A massive crazy win would be a good story.
Like just in like, how the hell did you pull it off?
Absolutely.
You know, those stories intrigue me as a real estate investor. I love those stories. So that's another thing that I would love to hear. If anybody has a crazy deal structure story, please reach out, let us know.
No, absolutely. Before we wrap it up, I mean, is there anything else we feel like we need to go over?
I mean, I think we should shout out Plutus Leads again for sponsoring us. It's a freaking great website.
Yeah.
Just connecting investors to agents. It gives everyone an opportunity to make more money. We use it. You know, we market, and then leads that want full value for their home, we sell on plutusleads.com. Agents buy them, and we get to recoup our marketing cost and scale our investing business faster. And agents get red hot leads with all of the details from our conversations with those sellers, which makes easier listings for them. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's a great website that every listener should check out. It's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.